If you find that year after year you set New Year's resolutions, and then by the end of January and February, they've fallen by the wayside, you're not alone. A lot of people experience a kind of boom or bust cycle with change. Starting the year with motivation, pushing hard, and then watching things slowly drop off. In my own experience in my work as a therapist, one of the most helpful books that I have ever read on behavior change is Atomic Habits by James Clear. So in this video, we're going to use the core principles from that book and apply them specifically to New Year's resolutions in a way that's realistic and works in everyday life. And just to be clear, I'm not sponsored or affiliated in any way by the author or the book. I've simply found the ideas genuinely helpful and often recommend them to clients and colleagues. What I like about this approach is that it shifts the focus away from pressure and big promises, and instead looks at how change actually happens in real life. The first 3 steps of this plan come directly from core ideas in Atomic Habits. The 4th step is something I've come to appreciate over time, both in my own life and my work as a therapist, as I've watched what helps people stay with change when life gets busy or messy. Step number 1, focus on identity, the who, not the what. Step 1 is to focus on identity, not outcomes. Even though we're going to work with very small pieces at the atomic level, it actually helps to start with the bigger picture first. Just like when you use a microscope, it helps to know what you're putting under the lens before you zoom all the way in. That bigger picture gives you a frame of reference for what you're going to be working towards. In Atomic Habits by James Clear, he suggests that lasting change happens when we focus on who we are becoming rather than only on what we want to achieve. So instead of asking, what do I want to accomplish this year? You ask, who do I want to start becoming? Like, I'm a runner, I'm a reader, I am someone who takes care of my mental health, I am someone who keeps my space organized. When you start to see yourself as the kind of person who does something, your behavior has less friction. You're no longer forcing change, you're reinforcing something that fits with who you believe you are. And these identities aren't labels you have to live up to perfectly, they're directions, not demands. Each small action is like a vote for that identity. You don't have to be fully that person yet, you're just collecting evidence that you're becoming them. A helpful prompt here is, if this year went reasonably well, not perfectly, what kind of person would I start becoming? That word start matters because when identity begins to shift, behavior often follows. Step 2, zoom in on tiny systems. Now we start zooming in. If step 1 was choosing what to put under the microscope, step 2 is adjusting the lens so you can see the small, repeatable actions that support that identity. One of the central ideas in Atomic Habits is that lasting change doesn't come from goals alone, it comes from systems. Goals are about where you want to end up. Systems are about what you do over and over in daily life. For each identity, you choose 1 or 2 micro habits that are small enough to repeat consistently. For example, if your identity is, I'm a healthy person, a micro habit might be, after I get home from the grocery store, I wash and put away all my fruits and vegetables. If your identity is, I'm a runner, a micro habit might be, after I change out of my clothes for work, I put on my running shoes and stretch. If your identity is, I am someone who keeps my space organized, a micro habit might be, after dinner, I reset one surface. These habits are intentionally almost too easy, and that's kind of the point. You're not trying to overhaul your whole life, you're creating consistent evidence for your identity. And over time, those small habits become easier, more authentic, and something you can build on. Putting on your running shoes leads to a short walk. A short walk turns into a longer movement. Tiny habits aren't the end goal, they're the foundation. So once you've identified these small actions, the next question becomes, how do you make them easier to actually do them in daily life? That's where the next step comes in. Step 3, the 4 laws of behavior change. This is where the structure of atomic habits gets really practical. These 4 laws help you shape your environment, so you don't have to rely on motivation and willpower. So law number 1, make it obvious. This law is about making the cue for the habit easy to see. James Clear talks about how our environment often shapes our behavior more than our intentions. One of the examples from the book that really struck me was making healthy foods more visible. So instead of leaving fruit in its bags or in the back of the crisper, I started washing it and putting it at eye level in my fridge. And once I did that, something interesting happened. My family and I started eating way more fruit, and we weren't wasting as much. Not because we tried harder, but because the healthy choice was more obvious. This is a great example of I am a healthy person being supported by the environment. When the cue is obvious, the behavior follows more naturally. Law number 2, make it attractive. This law is about pairing a habit with something pleasant or supportive. For example, keeping fruit in a nice bowl that you love, making your favorite smoothie with your favorite fruits, listening to your favorite song while prepping healthy food. When a habit feels inviting, you're more likely to repeat it. Law number 3, make it easy. This law is about lowering friction. Instead of, I need to go for a full run, it becomes, I put on my running shoes and warm up my body. Instead of, I need to completely organize the house, it becomes, I reset one surface. Easy habits get done. Momentum comes after you start. Law number 4, make it satisfying. This law is about feedback. Your brain needs a signal that says, that counted. That might be seeing the fruit disappear from the fridge, a simple check mark in your habit tracker, or noticing how good your body feels, how relaxed it feels after movement. These simple signals reinforce the identity you're building. Step number 4, build in flexibility. The last step builds on everything we've covered so far. Once you've clarified your identity, you've chosen the small repeatable habits, and shaped the environment to support them, the next step becomes, what happens on days when life really doesn't cooperate? Because no matter how well a habit is designed, energy fluctuates, stress shows up, schedules change. This is where I've found it really important to build in flexibility. Based on my own experience and my work with clients, instead of treating habits as all or nothing, I encourage people to use a minimum and a bonus approach. Your minimum is the version of the habit that you can do on hard, busy, or low energy days. Your bonus is what you can do when you have more capacity. For example, if your identity is I am a runner, on a hard day, the minimum might be putting on your running shoes and stretching and jumping around for a minute or 2. On a day with more space, the bonus might be a full run. Or if your identity is I am a healthy person, on a hard day, the minimum might be eating 1 piece of fruit. On a day with more energy, the bonus might be something like preparing meals and cooking for the week. Both count. What this does is remove the sense that you've failed. If you can't do the full version, you haven't failed, you've adjusted. And in my experience, the ability to adjust is often what allows habits to last over time. Instead of disappearing the first week, life gets complicated, which happens. This is how habits survive real life, not through pressure, but through flexibility. So, if New Year's resolutions haven't worked for you in the past, it's usually not because you lack discipline or motivation. More often, it's because the approach didn't match how change actually happens. So when you start with who you're becoming, not just what you want to achieve, you zoom in on those small repeatable actions, shape the environment so that those actions are easier to do, increase actions over time, and build in flexibility for real life, change becomes something you can practice rather than something you try to force. Small habits repeated consistently tend to shape identity over time. And that's what makes changes more sustainable than big promises made once a year. If you'd like help applying these, I've created a free handout that walks you through these 4 steps so you can apply it in your own life. You can find the link in the description below. And if this video was helpful, you're welcome to like and subscribe or share it with somebody else who might be struggling with their New Year's resolutions. Thanks so much for joining me. Hope to see you in the next one.